Yokohama, Japan. At a press conference held on the sidelines of an international gathering in Japan, the Secretary-General of the United Nations delivered a powerful appeal for nuclear disarmament, invoking the harrowing legacy of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. His remarks came as questions from international media shifted from global development challenges to the unfinished business of nuclear weapons elimination and unresolved conflicts across Africa. The UN chief emphasized that Japan's role in peacebuilding and nuclear disarmament carries a unique moral weight given its history as the only country to have suffered atomic bombings. Reflecting on the global campaign against nuclear arms, he underscored that the United Nations remains steadfastly committed to advancing treaties, conventions, and international frameworks that seek the complete eradication of nuclear weapons. In his remarks, he tied together themes of cooperation, disarmament, and the human stories that continue to drive the world's conscience toward action. The UN leader pointed out that international cooperation remains essential in addressing today's pressing issues. He described Japan as both a regional and global partner in peace efforts, citing the nation's proactive diplomacy in Africa, its strong stance on Ukraine, and its long-standing advocacy for disarmament. According to him, these efforts underscore Japan's position not just as an economic powerhouse but also as a messenger of peace, an identity deeply shaped by its historical experiences with war and nuclear devastation. Transitioning to the issue of nuclear weapons, the Secretary-General reminded the audience that disarmament is not only a legal or political necessity, but also a moral obligation rooted in the testimony of survivors. He stressed the urgency of sustaining global momentum on the issue. The UN chief stated, "Now we have a convention on the elimination of nuclear weapons that is having more and more support around the world, and we believe that this is an extremely important initiative." He went on to reflect on his personal visits to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, where he met with survivors of the atomic bombings. He recalled how deeply affected he was by their accounts, noting that these stories continue to serve as a moral compass for the global community. In his words, "I was extremely moved in my visits to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I've been twice in Nagasaki since I've been in Hiroshima by the Hibakusha and their testimony. And based on their testimony, we understand that it is the duty of all of us to consistently fight for a world without nuclear weapons." This was one of the most powerful moments of the press conference, highlighting how personal witness and survivor accounts influence policy advocacy at the highest international levels. The UN chief's remarks positioned nuclear disarmament not simply as a geopolitical debate, but as a shared responsibility of all humankind. The emphasis on the voices of the Hibakusha, survivors of the atomic bombings, reinforced the notion that international leaders have a duty to translate memory into action. This moral argument aligns with a broader push at the UN to strengthen conventions against nuclear proliferation. Despite setbacks in international negotiations, the Secretary-General's statement framed disarmament as a generational obligation that transcends political cycles. His choice to highlight the support growing around the Convention on the Elimination of Nuclear Weapons reflects both optimism and urgency, signalling that while progress has been uneven, momentum still exists. Following the nuclear disarmament remarks, journalists turned attention to unfinished decolonization processes in Africa. Yusuke Yamada, a Japanese journalist, raised a pointed question about the last colony in Africa and the lack of resolution despite United Nations proposals dating back to 1991. Yamada asked directly why decades have passed without meaningful progress and when such a resolution could finally be expected. His question highlighted the frustration felt by many observers who see certain conflicts as neglected within the broader UN agenda. The Secretary-General acknowledged the difficulty but reaffirmed his institution's dedication. He replied, "We have been working consistently in negotiation of the situation of conflict, and we are totally committed to be able to reach an agreement among the parties on the future." Though not offering a concrete timeline, The statement underscored the UN's willingness to continue mediation and dialogue until a peaceful outcome is reached. The session's transition from nuclear disarmament to African decolonization underscored the interconnectedness of peace and security issues. Both themes, eliminating nuclear weapons and resolving territorial disputes, revolve around international law, human dignity, and the avoidance of violence. The UN leaders' framing suggests that while contexts may differ, the principles remain the same. Dialogue, justice and cooperation must guide the international community's actions. His repeated emphasis on partnerships and multilateralism reflects a consistent message that no single nation can address global challenges alone. Whether confronting nuclear risks or colonial legacies, solutions must come from collective will and respect for international norms. As the press conference drew to a close, the UN chief reiterated gratitude for the questions raised, acknowledging the importance of media in shaping public understanding of such critical issues. He maintained that while obstacles remain significant, there is no alternative to persistence in the pursuit of peace, justice and disarmament. His remarks in Japan, particularly invoking the Hibakusha testimonies, added emotional weight to his diplomatic message. By linking memory with policy, the speech reminded the world that the scars of Hiroshima and Nagasaki are not relics of history, but living calls to action. In sum, the press conference illustrated the delicate balance the United Nations must maintain, addressing immediate conflicts like Gaza and Ukraine while also sustaining long-term commitments such as nuclear disarmament and decolonization in Africa. Through it all, the Secretary-General framed Japan not just as host, but as a symbol, a nation that embodies the costs of war and the potential for peace.